Springfield, Adult Education, World Religions, and New Thought in Christianity. And I'm John Braucher. I'm a late fill-in for Mary and this morning, and we're going to talk about grief and renewal, finding beauty and balance in loss. This is a book by Don Miguel Ruiz and Barbara Emmerich. Most of us have read some of Miguel Ruiz's work, and Barbara, I guess, has been co-writing and co-working with him for some time. She was born in France, the daughter of a U.S. diplomat. She grew up in Europe, Africa, and the West Indies. And she was an actor and a film producer. And then she met Don Miguel Ruiz 25 years ago and began an apprenticeship as a shaman. And now she collaborates and co-writes with me. And I want to give a little background about her. She was, an actor and a movie producer, so she was a storyteller. And that's a part of what Miguel Ruiz kind of gets into. He uses the storytelling, allegories, parables, if you will. And so that's a part of what we're going to do today. It's going to be a little combination. This book actually is from a 5-day workshop on grief and finding personal and spiritual growth through the process of responding to grief, an intentional response to grief. So welcome both the folks that are here today in person as well as those that are online. And since I don't have handouts or anything, and as you see I don't have any other technology in the background here, but this will be taped and be online with the other things, both on Facebook and also
on the website.
So if you want to refer back to some of the meditations and some of the information, you'll be able to access that by going back on there if you have access to it. So we're going to open with a meditation from Rumi, translation by Coleman Barks, called Guest House. So please just kind of get relaxed in a comfortable position, kind of attuned to your breath. Close your eyes if it's comfortable. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival. A joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if there are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. But still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. Okay, so one of the reasons I thought maybe it was appropriate to do a grief talk. It's just kind of the time of year. I don't know for you, but for me, it's often a time when I revisit grief responses that maybe I haven't finished. During the holidays, it's a time when we meet with family or are expected to meet with family, or we notice that we're not meeting with family. And so some of the losses, sense of abandonment, traumas, and things kind of rekindle during this time of year. And we would like to reframe the whole thing. Grief is universal. You don't even get beyond being a little kid without experiencing loss and grief. You see them in their eyes when they're just crying, because over whatever, he's got my toy, whatever. And so it's a very universal experience. And we want to reframe it as an invitation for personal and spiritual growth. That it's not a negative thing to have to grieve. It's not free of pain. And the whole idea that we're supposed to live life without any pain is ridiculous. As much as there's this thread of positive psychology that runs through Unity teachings, it doesn't mean there's never any pain. It's missing the point. It's taking it out of context. And so the whole nature of shadow work, dark night of the soul, the sweeping out the old to make room for the new is just a part of the normal, natural cycle that we want to embrace. And like I said, this book is basically taken from a 5-day workshop on grief. And I just picked it up yesterday, so I've not been there, but I imagine that the way it was presented, because it's a pretty small little book, that what they did was they presented some of these allegories and story, did a little bit of the storytelling, and then they probably broke the group into small groups and had some discussion groups, and they did some guided meditation centers. So during this time, I'm going to present some of or 4 different allegories that they presented in the book. And I'm also going to share some of the short quips that we can meditate on a little bit. Thoughts of going, okay. How does that fit in with grief and growth and letting go and embracing the feelings that are involved in the grief process? And then feel free, this is a small enough group, and a lot of you know each other well, so feel free to speak up and share experiences that seem relevant to what the topic is today. So we're going to use language as a tool. Another metaphor that Ruiz often uses is that of that we're artists. And that the point that he tries to encourage us to think of our role in life as an artist, whether it be literary, visual, musical, relational, or even like as a gardener or whatever your art form be. But taking the point of view of an artist, which means trying to see everything, whether it's pleasant or unpleasant, because everything that we see, everything that we experience, everything that we have, that we notice is the essence of awareness. And so it's really key to be in awareness if we're going to choose a path of how to respond, as opposed to being totally on autopilot as life happens to us. And just letting it. So part of co-creation, part of this whole idea that we're going to make something out of grief means that we have to have some level of awareness. And of course, that's where our regular practice of some type of mindfulness or meditation comes in. It doesn't mean that we have to have any certain way of doing it. It doesn't have to be like 30 minutes every 1 hour or whatever. It's just that the regular idea that we're going to set still and listen and notice the difference between the chatter in the internal dialogue to what seems to be the whisper of who we really are. And put us in an aware position where we're not judging, so we can see really what is and give us that opportunity to choose. Another point of the artist is to feel. So allow yourself to feel the fullest, no matter how tender or terrible the emotion seems to be. The idea of turning tragedy into poetry, turn despair into creativity, and to protect your masterpiece, to turn sorrow into celebration. Say yes to life, accept all of life. The surprises, say yes to unpredictable things that occur in life and to the endless possibilities. So instead of being on autopilot and reflex, have a response to life so that you can be a master artist and a collaborator with life, sharpen your eye to beauty, and lessen judgment so you can see things just as they are. Another point about being an artist is being kind to your body. Your body is something that we're just born with, and it's our sensory, and it's our spaceship to the cosmos. So we're going to visit it on a daily basis every time we get up, and as Don said, getting vertical today. And so it's important that we be kind to our body. And why this comes up in grief is often one of the grief responses is that people are often unkind to their body during the grief process. And so it's a time to really kind of take extra special care. He also talks about that we're mind drunk, so mesmerized by our thoughts that we can't see the wonder that exists beyond them. It's easy to neglect the needs of the body in times of grief because we're so tied up in just the thoughts that are just running through our mind. But the mind's not the end. It ends up also being the opportunity. So the first parable, and this one should be familiar to those of you who have read Miguel Ruiz in the past, is the parable of the smoky room. So this man, though still young, had dedicated his life in search of truth, feeling there was more to being a great shaman than he'd learned from his ancestral teachings. He was hungry for new revelations. So he left the village one night and made his way to the high desert to find a quiet place to meditate. As the sun set behind the western mountains, he found a secluded spot and made camp. He ate a modest meal and very quickly fell asleep under the night sky. It was well past midnight when he woke again. He found himself gazing up at the heavens. There was no moon that night, and the stars were bright. Each speck of light blazed like a diamond against the blackness of the space. Stars and vast empty space between the stars. As the man raised a hand to rub his tired eyes, he noticed his fingers outlined against the brilliant sky. And as he looked, it seemed he was seeing through his hands to the stars beyond. Or could it be that his hands, too, were made of stars? In that instant, he felt as if he was awaking from a lifetime of sleep. He rose to his feet, looked down at his body, and then up at the night sky. A smile of comprehension lit his face. I am made of stars, and the space between the stars. When he processed that thought, it also occurred to him that the stars didn't create light, as he had assumed. Light created the stars. My entire body is made of light, he whispered. Everything is made of light. He saw that the space between the stars was not empty, but filled with light. Light, he realized, contained all the information of life. His body, like all bodies, was indeed made of stars. All matter was made of atoms and the brilliant space between. The universe was made of matter and the creative force of energy that makes life possible. This force was the truth of him. It is the truth of all living beings. That night, in a sudden moment of inspiration, the medicine man saw himself in everything. He saw himself in every human, animal, insect, and tree. He saw himself in the oceans, forests, and meadows. He saw himself in the clouds, in rain, and in the earth under his feet. He saw how life combined matter and energy to create countless manifestations. I am life, he shouted to the glittering sky, and I see myself reflected in every human being. It was suddenly obvious that people were mirrors for each other, but a kind of smoke blurred their vision. It obscured the truth from them. So I call this the parable of the smoky mirror. So what do you think the mirror is? The smoky mirror. Any thoughts?
Yeah, wouldn't it be the delusion that we all try to live in?
Well, yeah, it's our mind. It's what our mind, the reflection our mind makes as we are interacting with the world. Yeah. So yes, that's exactly right. So some of the brief meditations, and I invite you to again, kind of just sit quietly and let some of these just kind of sink in and see if they resonate with you or not. We're afraid of losing the people we love or the objects we value. We're afraid of losing our familiar ways of thinking and believing. Beyond that, we're afraid of feeling unsafe. Death doesn't discriminate. It touches everyone. Life doesn't discriminate. Everything that exists is the result of life's creative process. Loss is an inevitable part of that process. As artists, we could easily appreciate the beauty and balance of death if we weren't taking it all so personally. Life is the one creative force. It has no main character. Life is limitless energy, and energy has no personal agenda. Life is truth, and truth has no motive. Of course, being human, you care. Caring is normal for human beings. To get caught up in your own drama is normal. And caring doesn't mean it's necessary to cause yourself harm. Care for the physical body and spare it unnecessary pain versus caring so much about judgments that we're willing to experience pain over and over and over. Be aware of the crimes you commit against yourself. Many of them in the name of caring. We use praise as a reason to feel unworthy, especially when somebody else praises us. We use the idea of the divine to ignite feuds and hatred. We fight each other over individual definitions of truth. And we use fear of death as an excuse not to live a productive and happy life. Me isn't the truth of you. It's a fanciful reflection / refraction of the truth. Your mind reflects through stories, and the main character of the story is whoever you describe yourself to be. Your body is an organism made of matter and energy. It's made of real things. It's an exact copy of the truth. When I'm talking about reflection, I am talking about your mind. When I refer to your mind, I'm talking about a storyteller. I'm talking about the unreal and unreliable mirror image of the truth.
When you started about the mind and it's not the enemy, you said, and I just wanted to ask for a little thought on how much right now the awareness metaphysically and spiritually in the world at large is about the mind running us, and rather than using it as a tool. And there's kind of a lot of making it be like it's a separate part of us that's the enemy that you have to fight against or something. I think that adds to I think there's a better way we could view it, interact with it, or I don't know what you were just talking about, the mind has made me think that.
So, and we'll get to that too, in here too, which is that the transcendence is the key, and the transcendence is from awareness. So, if you're on autopilot, the mind can be very destructive because you didn't write the story. You're telling it to yourself. But you didn't consciously write it. You weren't part of the co-creation of it. Or you were to some people, just in how you reacted. But your reactions, you didn't realize the power you have. in creation when we were younger and as we were growing up and we were being exposed to all the experiences that we had. And now, as adults, and the more awareness we have, we can do more.
Thank you. It's strange how everybody seems to think about this business of grief, except they're think about grief a little differently. I would like to think that I've come quite a ways through it, because I've had several run-ins with grief over the years. And I've come to a place where it seems to me that if I take a long view or perspective, then this has happened to me hundreds of times, and it will probably go more times. But it's like losing a person it's not really true. They've gone into another room, in a room that I will go into one day, and so there's no loss. It's all a short-term kind of almost a pseudo pain for me now. That knowing that my loved ones are there, and all I have to do is go see them again, and again, and again, and again.
There you go. Thank you, John. So, he says, not believing your story or anyone's story can be called transcendence. Transcending your own knowledge is a mastery. Like a master artist, you can learn to represent life in the simplest and most authentic way possible. You don't have to make assumptions, and you can do away with expectations. You can demand nothing more from life than what it offers, and give no more than your capabilities allow. You can be such a master. Your mind can evaluate its stories, it can listen to its own thoughts, and can decide how well its conclusion faithfully represent reality, so that it can form a conscious collaboration with the physical body, which will benefit your entire world. And of course, you need your mind in order to do that. So, of course, your mind is not the enemy. He goes on, he talks about, I'm not going to go into it, but there's an urge to blame that he discusses. And he urges us to allow the brain to help, or the mind to help. He says, allow your mind to help in your recovery. Allow it to find solutions to problems, which is what it was designed to do. Allow it to cast aside old beliefs for new ones, and then update new opinions when they no longer seem helpful.
I guess in a way, that's what you just said is part of what I was going to say. What I have found the downside of all the grieving, the pain that we suffer, all of those things that we suffer from it. What you were just saying, we kind of need to step back from life. I guess I'm not sure exactly what you said on that, but my experience is that the journey is to create the story that you want to create, participate in it in a full way that, of course, is going to engage you in ways that can eventually make you vulnerable to the story, but but it also is bringing you into life. It's bringing you into the story. It's what the game's about.
Right.
And then, for me anyway, this dynamic is about, through that story, I engage life, and then I learn new ideas to tell new stories. And in that process, I sometimes have to lay part of the old story, or maybe even most of the old story, aside in order to be able to do the new story, which a lot of us do that with death. But those of us who are studying this understand that there's a way we can do it here too. So for me, it's not ever about separating myself from life. It used to be. That was all I wanted. But how can I be in this dynamic life that engages me so much and allow what happens and allow the changes and allow, I don't see it as loss. I just see it as I'm telling a new story and I can set the old story aside. How to do that in a way that I don't have to disengage from life, that I can be so present to this life and allow change. I don't know if I'm making sense.
No, you are. And that's what he's saying. He's saying you want to be fully engaged in life and fully engaged in all the feelings that you experience. Just don't trust what you're telling yourself the story is, the old story, the old recordings, and to think and then actively co-create and write, be creative and write your new story together. So that's that participation, that creative, that artist part, is that co-creating the new story.
So an example of that for me, I buried two of my children, and the second one that passed was 19, and instead of, when your child dies, God, you remember every awful thing you ever did.
Mm-hmm.
That's what wants to just fill your mind with every mistake you made as a parent. So an example of what you're talking about for me was, I said that every day I would look for 3 amazing, beautiful things in the world to share with Adam. And we would talk about it. And so I chose to do that story instead of every time that I made him eat his vegetables, So I think that's what you're talking about. Should you change?
Absolutely. So the next parable is called, I named these parables. They didn't do that in the book. This one they did. The weight of the butterflies. The weight of butterflies. Every year, billions of butterflies travel thousands of miles to return to their birthplace. This happens on every continent on the planet. The monarch is impressive, it's beautiful, and has strength to make the long journey home and back again. Still, it's a butterfly. It's small, fragile, and as light as air. Butterflies are almost weightless, yet, converged in numbers like these, they can cause the branches of massive trees to bend towards the forest floor. Thought is far less substantial than a butterfly. But thoughts weigh heavily on us in much the same way. In physical terms, thoughts don't even exist. One thought may be too fleeting for us to notice. But obsessive thinking can cripple us. So then he moves on to talk about grace.
Grace?
Grace.
Grace. Grace.
So it's like, so he talks about that our existence is fleeting. Yes. I mean, we're here just a flicker of the life of the universe. And they use the word but a lot in here. I don't use the word but. I transfer it to the word and. And while we exist, we can be aware of our own eternal and infinite nature. So that awareness is, I consider that's like the wide perspective. Taking that perspective of the wholeness of life, rather than the micro perspective of the kids aren't doing this, or I've got to pay these bills, or this is something that's it didn't end up being the way I wanted it to taste when I was setting up the recipe or whatever. And we focus our attention on the events that make up a little micro thing, and sometimes get so caught up in that it can weigh us down, especially if we become obsessed with it. We don't. So death's normal, and the transformation of matter is inevitable. Just everything's in flux. It's always in a state of change. So then there's the next parable called Pain Too Much. I think you'll like this one. So this is about an alien girl from another planet who traveled to Earth. She was eager to see the planet and to understand the dream of humanity. First, however, she had to learn a few rules. The first rule was never to pay more than 10 cents for anything during her stay. The second was never to pay more than 3 times. Pay no more than 10 cents, pay no more than 3 times. If the rules are not followed, she was told, she would be trapped on Earth. She would be lost and unable to return to her own planet. So the girl vowed to remember and embarked on her journey. She arrived on Earth in the guise of a human being. Immediately, she found herself in the middle of a huge marketplace. All around her, merchants were selling their wares, shouting and waving to passing customers. People of all kinds were bargaining for the lowest price on clothes, food, trinkets of every sort. The alien girl took in the spectacle. Never had she witnessed such chaos. Everyone was yelling and no one seemed to be listening. Everyone was competing to be heard and to be seen. In this marketplace, attention seemed to be the most valuable prize of all. As she strolled through the stand, she caught the attention of a young man. He introduced himself and took her hand. He treated her to cakes and candies. She found she enjoyed his company and stayed by his side the rest of the day. The two of them laughed and played games for hours. The girl experienced many things she never could have imagined and found pleasure in all of it. She found the young man to be especially amusing, so by the end of the day in the marketplace, she even felt like maybe she was falling in love. As night came, the two friends danced by a beautiful lake and kissed in the moonlight. There were other dancers too. There were many other girls laughing and flirting, and before long the young man was kissing someone else. Much to her own surprise, the little alien felt surges of anger and jealousy. As the night wore on, these feelings became so strong that she could barely breathe. She could barely think. Confused and hurt, she ran away from the lake. Soon she was alone in a strange place at the darkest time of night. Gone was the marketplace and the colorful spectacle. Gone were the noisy crowds where everyone talked and nobody listened. Gone, too, with the moonlight dancing in the sweet comfort of her kiss. Fear took hold of the girl. She ran and ran, going deeper into the dangerous landscape. She hardly saw where she was going. In her panic, she bruised her arms and legs on tree branches and cut her feet on hidden rocks. By dawn, she was lost in the river. For her brief adventure on this planet, she was paying a high emotional price. She was enraged, she was terrified, she was ashamed. On top of it all, she was hungry and cold. When morning arrived, she limped into a small village where a kindly woman gave her some food and fresh spring water. While she ate, the girl listened to the woman talk about her own troubles. It seemed the woman was alone, without a husband, and would soon be without a home. Recently, her only child had died of a fever, and she was filled with sorrow. She had lost everything that was precious to her. The girl felt the woman's grief, as if the story had been her own. She felt the agony of losing a child. Soon she began to cry. This moved the woman to cry as well. Together they recalled their losses and fell into despair. The poor woman would pay her regrets, probably for the rest of her life. During the good times and the bad, she would relive her pain. She would blame herself for her misfortunes, and her heart would break again. This was the way with all human beings, the girl realized. Humans paid 1,000 times for one mistake. They would punish themselves again and again. They spend their entire lives feeling regret for a single missed opportunity. They feel guilt whether or not they are to blame. And she too was punishing herself. She had been disappointed and driven mad with human jealousy. For a long time after, she would recall her first night on the planet and feel bitter again. Heartbreak would become a central theme in her life story. She would remember feeling betrayed. She would relive the horror of stumbling alone through the dark night. She would grieve for her friend and for every woman who had lost a child. She would feel pity for all human beings. And she would desperately yearn to be among her own kind. Most of all, she would judge herself for breaking the 2 simple rules. That's right, she had paid more than 10 cents. And she had paid it more than 3 times. She had paid a high price for every disappointment, every loss. She paid again and again, every time she told her story. And it seemed she would continue to pay, for the little alien girl would spend the rest of her life on planet Earth, remembering and regretting just like every other person lost in the human dream. So without awareness, our attention will yield to the old storylines. Reflexive thoughts will lead to emotional pain. You may judge yourself, and your judgments will then lead to more pain. The cycle will continue. If you believe you're a victim, focusing only on your disappointments and dash hopes, then you will live as a victim. So then we go into the hunt for grace. So truth enlivens us all. When you hunt authenticity, you're energized. You're happier, lighter. When your appetite shifts to the real and the true, your entire being can feel the difference. Practice being honest with yourself, and lies will begin to leave a bad taste in your mouth. Any kind of drama will feel silly. Your emotional cravings will lessen as you shake away old habits. You'll find that self-acceptance is the new habit. Trust in life is normal, laughter is easy, love is natural, and at last you're willing to offer yourself a bit of grace. And I translate lies as a judgmental opinion in this. So when you stop having judgments, it's something that's good or bad or right or wrong, and get caught in that trap, then drama really does become, it seems silly. It's just like, sad. It ceases to make that kind of sense.
So I have a question.
Yes.
That it's one of them that this is a question that I'm still. This still presents itself to me within my life, in studying metaphysics and understanding the power of positive thought. And then there's also the idea of being your authentic self. And for those of us who have come from a story that contained a lot of drama and a lot of stuff, okay. One of the challenges, it's like I'll be with a group of people. You exchange who you are, you talk about what's important and experiences and everything. And one of the issues for me to overcome in order to find my authentic self and be whole was to stop critiquing every idea that I had to see if it was palpable for my human fellows, that I was not dumping my crap on them all the time. However, it also kept me, you just separate. You don't feel, you feel like you're this freak that has no connection with others because you're always hiding anything in case it might be too ugly for somebody. Or you don't. So that's the dilemma in it, how to be your authentic self. And how can you be your authentic self if you say, no, I'm not gonna, that part of me is not okay. I can't share that part. And yet not live in a world of drama. I'm still trying to figure that out within myself and with others.
When you do, let me know.
So, and I think that's where the second agreement from this 4 agreements book really comes in. Is when you truly, how other people respond to you no longer becomes an issue. It's their issue. And when and I think it's the hardest agreement to live in.
But I'm not just talking about their reaction. I'm
No,
talking
I know.
about
Then your reaction.
yeah, it's your reaction, not theirs.
But
That
if your reaction is that it's no longer, you're not going to take it personally. You're not attached to their response. That you didn't cause their response. They're still having their own dream. You're going off of your refining your dream and your creation and your story writing. And they're the author, director, and producer of their own production. So it's not your production.
And this has just come to me recently, is whenever I really started looking at the incarnation that we each experience. And that means even the people who have died in my life brought to me a challenge or a way that I needed to look at them. And so I now love them and care for them because they're not gone. They're just not here.
Right.
And the challenge that I was given, I may have either passed the challenge or I may not have passed the challenge. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I can only be grateful for the challenge that I received from that individual. So that's where I'm.
So this is kind of so grace is a blessing, a gift that doesn't need to be earned, and life is the giver of grace. Every trauma presents a choice to take productive actions or actions that lead either productive actions or actions that lead to your own defeat. The choice depends on how much love you give. Love yourself, and you can love others so much better. Listen without judgment. Notice where your thoughts are taking you and shift their direction when you need to. How you think and what you believe can make a difference in your recovery. And there's another one that's related to that. Is respect everyone's right to have a point of view, but no one has the right to impose beliefs on you. Be skeptical of what they say, but listen.
I think the gift of grief is, if any of us has ever had somebody die, I think it's everybody has that overwhelming everything you did wrong and the sorrow and things is what tries to kick in. But what I've noticed is that it's so much that there's something about the gift of grief that makes everything take a different surrealistic perspective so that it helps you rise to a different, or it lifts your consciousness somehow.
Yes, I think that the dark night of the soul, the kinds of ideas that sometimes it's only through great challenge and pain that we transcend the little minute details of everyday life, and we are able to get that bigger perspective.
It provides contrast.
There you go. In Abraham language.
Oh, cool.
Okay, so grief demands that we rest and reassess. And we can move forward unless we choose not to. Reflexive thoughts lead to emotional pain. And we intuitively know that what we have lost over the years, and yet you wake up each morning to face new challenges. You overcome fear, you survive losses of all kinds, you reach your next form over and over. And the truth enlivens us all. When you hunt authenticity, you've energized, you're happier, or I read that earlier.
What does it mean to hunt authenticity? What does it mean to hunt authenticity?
It is to let go of judgment so you can try to see what is. Whatever it is. Whatever we're experiencing, whatever we're listening to, engaging, relationship, or just our relationship with ourselves. But with the judgment removed, just seeing what is without the pain.
I mean, I'll keep at it if you want. Good.
Yeah.
Well, so hunting authenticity is letting go of stuff, because that seems more of a, like, hunting to me is much more of an active pursuit rather than something that has.
Oh, you don't like accidentally let go of.
It's not an easy
It's
thing.
the pursuit of letting go, and that's
It's the pursuit of seeing things
authentically.
without the lens of judgment in a way.
Yeah.
I'm just a comment on the concept of loss. I don't think that we can lose anything, and the grieving process to me isn't a process because of loss. It's a process of losing a notion about life and ourself that we've carried. For example, one of the ideas almost the worst thing anyone can think of is having to lose one of their children to death. And yet, everything that we learn in metaphysics and that is the eternal nature of who we are and how we're free to make our own choices. And if we bring a child into this earth and say, now child, you've got to stay longer than me. You've got, this is mine telling you for your life. Every child has the right to come and go as they please. And so the lost part of it is losing the idea that I can lose something or the idea that I've had about how it has to be. And to me, that's where I begin to find my authentic self more, my true nature, and begin to live by that.
He is winking. That was so good.
Yeah.
Well stated.
Wow.
So the next,
No, you have 5 minutes.
okay. So there's two things. There's one more,
Are you feeling empathy here?
story. But one of the things is the permission to laugh.
Oh. So happens.
Say more.
So it's an act of love to acknowledge someone's strength and resilience in difficult times, and it's an act of friendship to encourage laughter in difficult situations. A sense of humor gets us through unbearable moments. Good cheer should be viewed as a gesture of love.
Can you read that again?
It's an act of love to acknowledge someone's strength and resilience in difficult times.
I can't hear him for your conversation.
Oh, sorry.
It's an act of friendship to encourage laughter in difficult situations. A sense of humor gets us through unbearable moments. Good cheer should be viewed as a gesture of love. Give yourself permission to laugh, to love, to remember. Give others the same kind of tolerance. Give them the freedom to feel anything and everything. Be that kind, be that generous. Regardless of the circumstances, love yourself without conditions. Let the giddy wonder of that love spill out into the rest of the world like watercolors on a vast and expanding canvas. So then, this is the last story.
I'm not saying anything.
There's a comforting tale that I heard once as a child about a kind man whose wife passed away at a young age. His love for her was so strong that he swore he could never be happy without her. So he continued to grieve for years and years. He began each day feeling heavy sorrow. He prayed each night that God would take him soon so he could be with his beloved wife again. He found it difficult to be around people, so he avoided family and friends. Each day he would visit his wife's grave, crying out in grief. One such day, as the man sobbed over her grave, he became aware of an odd noise. It sounded like someone was strumming a guitar and singing. Singing in a cemetery? Impossible. This upset the poor man so much that he stood up and stalked angrily toward the music. Not far from where his wife was buried, he found a young man sitting on a gravestone playing a guitar. He looked completely at peace, cherishing each note he played and smiling to himself as he sang. With a song and a smile, I'll linger a while and follow the will of... What are you doing? The man interrupted. Don't you know where you are? The singer stopped playing and looked up with a smile. Yes, sir, the young man answered pleasantly. I'm at the grave of my beautiful wife, the woman I loved more than anything in the world. Your wife is dead? The older man responded. And you smile and you sing? Yes, she is gone and I must face the world without her. He lifted his guitar in the air. I must follow life's will, as must we all. By singing, the grieving man said. Singing, yes, and dancing, and then singing some more, said the other man as he took up his guitar and continued the verse. Here am I, alone and bereft, having lost my love, my friend, and my wife. What can we do? There's nothing left but following the road of life. So that's, and basically that's that story, and it's just encouraging us to, be open to another point of view, another way of kind of working through it. So now we have the announcements.
Yes, and I will pass the basket. If you are online and would like to support Unity of Springfield, you can go to unityofspringfield.org. And go ahead, John.
The monthly drum circle will be this Thursday, December 7th at 6:30 p.m. No drumming experience is necessary, and all are welcome. Next Sunday at 9:15 in the New World Religion Adult Sunday School, Mary Hilsbeck Huber will present Healthy Boundaries, which she's going to do
Part 1.
Part 1 instead of part 2. Jen's got some announcements about carolers and Santagrams coming up, and Lisa has some update on shelter, and we do have a planning meeting right after the service on December 10th. If you'd like to be a part of the planning committee for Planet Unity, please attend that meeting next Sunday. Have you donated your time, talent, or treasure? If you volunteered in any capacity, please join us for a chili, potluck, and holiday party on December 16th from 12 to 3 p.m. If you would like to participate in the gift exchange game, please bring a gift valued up to $10. Sign up in the foyer if you can attend and what you would like to bring. And I'm not going to, like Greg doesn't read the rest of it, so that's elusive enough.
Thank you, John. And I can actually do Jen's announcements. So the Santagrams, you can hire our youth to go caroling in the Springfield area. It's $25. We did it last year. My husband and I sent it to my mother-in-law. It was her favorite Christmas gift, so I highly recommend it.
Okay, and then we can gather up.